But Ben Carson says the family unit was stronger during slavery and the government ruined it. Now, by the way, who freed the slaves? The government.
Oh, the government did it. Look, guys, all types of systemic racism that go through the government, don't worry about them anymore. According to Cenk, don't worry about those anymore. It's okay. Because you should be thankful to the government for allowing you to even be free in the first place. The first video that we're going to get into is 8 months old. But this is a TYT video that I thought was so ridiculous. Now, I found this video because Actual Justice Warrior went over it recently, and he found it because AIU went over it. Maybe AIU found it from somebody else, Gavin McGinnis, who knows, but the video was just so ridiculous. I had to make sure that I covered it. So this is the TYT Ben Carson video. So this is actually like the most ridiculous video ever. And you'll see why. But like Anna Kasparian and Cenk say some pretty racist stuff here. They say they actually like get super triggered over like the smallest things. Like, who even knows what they're freaking out about in this? Honestly, it's so strange. I have no clue what they're even mad about. Like, the whole thing is so ridiculous. So we'll play the video and you'll see.
Ben Carson was at CPAC doing what Ben Carson does best. Let's watch.
Well, when you look at what the black community has been through, go all the way back to slavery. It was the family, the strong family units, and the faith in God that got people through that. They got people through Jim Crow, through severe segregation, through all the difficulties. But what really had a negative impact was when the government came along and said, there, you poor little thing. I'm going to take care of all your needs, and started implementing policies that were destructive to family formation. Those are the things that have hurt the black community the most.
So,
okay, so before they spaz out, for whatever reason, Ben Carson, all he's talking about is the fact that like the black family has deteriorated since welfare. And it's true. And this is something that I talk about actually like in almost every systemic racism debate that I've ever had. Like, a big part of systemic racism to me is the fact that the government had a big hand in the black family deteriorating. There more and more children in the black community grow up in single parent households. So growing up in a single parent household has just so many negative effects on kids growing up. And so like it makes you more likely to go to jail, makes you more like, or kids who grow up in single parent households are more likely to go to jail or prison. They're more likely to commit crimes. They're more likely to have drug problems. They're more likely to drop out of high school. They're less likely to graduate from college. They are more likely to have kids in that grow up in single parent households. Like the black marriage rates were much higher before the 60s when what was it called? The Great American Plan came out or whatever. The Great American Act. I forget what it was called, but yeah, they pretty much came out with welfare, and it definitely has like incentives, like a financial incentives, unintentionally most likely, but it still has financial incentives for people to not have two incomes within the household, which means that if a mother has custody of her children, she will make more money if there is not a father figure in the household. She will get more money from the government, which it makes it easier for her to take care of her kids, and hopefully helps them live a better life if she gets more money from the government. So I don't blame parents or women for taking advantage of that in any way. But it does lead to, like, more detrimental outcomes for black families. So that's what he's talking about in this video. I feel like this is fairly straightforward, pretty simple. And he mentioned the fact that, like, their faith, their religion, I'm religious, I'm a Christian, like he says that their faith is what got them through hard times, like in Jim Crow. That's what he said. That's it. That's all he said. They're going to freak out about this, but that's all he said, okay?
So if he's talking about the policies that were in fact destructive to family formation for the black community, things like discriminatory criminal laws, right? Discriminatory arrests when it comes to the war on drugs, when it comes...
Now, discriminatory arrests, sure. That makes sense. That's what you think he meant? No, that's what he meant. He talks about this stuff all the time. It's not what I think he meant. He talks about this stuff all the time. And we can go find, like, the original speech and go pull it up if you want. Like, that's what he was talking about. I would bet my life on it. This is like an insanely common talking point on the right. I mean, with Christians, with people who care about, like, families and family values and stuff, that, like, obviously this is something that's going to be important to them. Now, she started off by saying that he didn't talk about discriminatory laws. There aren't discriminatory laws, as AJW pointed out in his video. There's no such thing as a discriminatory law. It's literally against the law and unconstitutional to have discriminatory laws. So there are no discriminatory laws. Then she said discriminatory arrests. There are discriminatory arrests. Sure. There's, like, individual cops can do bad things. There are discriminatory arrests. That's fine. But now she's going to go on to freak out about the fact that he didn't, like, mention more types of systemic racism, and instead he was talking about families.
To the 1994 crime bill, like all of that stuff.
Redlining, housing.
I mean, but he's not talking about that. He's talking about the social safety net. He's talking about government programs that help lift people out of poverty. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about a broken criminal justice system. He's not talking about racism in the housing market.
Now, she's freaking out, dude. She's really excited about this. This is, like, got her super heated. And this is such a small thing. I don't know why she's so heated right now, but she is freaking out about this. And all she's freaking out about is the fact that he gave an example of one type of systemic racism and didn't give the examples that she wanted him to give. that's what she's upset about. That's the horrible crime that he committed, was he gave the wrong example of systemic racism. Now, he wouldn't call it systemic racism, sure, and most people on the right don't believe in systemic racism. They don't look at things within systems, so they don't even think that that's a thing. But, like, obviously, if for anybody who understands what systemic racism is, he's giving an example of systemic racism anyways. So it's not it's not worth freaking out over that he didn't give the right types of systemic racism, or the ones that you want him to give. Instead, he was critical of a system that has very much so negatively impacted the black family, and has made it to where, like, most of the other problems where we're talking about, like, black kids, you know, being in jail more often, or, you know, committing crimes more often, or, you know, like, all of these other problems that we look at, a lot of them start with the fact that there are less two-parent households in the black community. So, like, to me, this is the most important one. Like, this is the one that, like, it's one that people on the left don't often want to talk about, because they feel like it's reinforcing the nuclear family, and that this, like, will shame other people who are, you know, doing their best in a single parent household. And I can understand that, but I don't think that that's worth, like, denying a truth, which is that, like, actually nuclear families just have much better outcomes within the society that we exist in.
Not talking about any of that, right? I mean, whenever you hear right-wingers talk about, oh, where are the fathers? Where are the fathers? And they're specifically talking about black families. Most of them who aren't with their families have been imprisoned for nonviolent drug offenses.
So, I would like to see the stats on that, because I think that's bullcrap. I doubt that most of the fathers are missing because they're locked up for non-violent drug offenses. I doubt that they missed 18 years of their kids' childhood because they had a joint. I'm just not buying that. I don't know. Maybe maybe I should be more charitable in this scenario, but I don't know. I'm just not buying that personally.
Yeah.
But that's not what he's talking about. That's not what he's talking about. I'm just so, honestly, I'm tired of, like, wasting my life away responding to idiots like Ben Carson.
Oh, he's the idiot. You're up here at a freaking 8 over something where you should be down at a 2, right? Like, you are so upset over nothing. Like, I feel like they just threw this in, like, we need to eat up time, we need something, we need something to fill some time, we don't have enough stories today, so let's just play this clip of Ben and criticize him a little bit. Like, that's what I feel like it was. It had to have been an insanely news week for this to be something you talk about, but then they freak out like this, and you wonder, wow, maybe this is something that actually bothers them. Like, maybe they're being genuine. This is ridiculous. This is a really strange way to react to what Ben said. Or, like, more so, she's reacting to what he didn't say, right? She's upset about what he didn't say. She really, like, wanted him to say these other things. This is what you should say when you're talking about black people, Ben. Let Anna Kasparian teach you how to talk about black people, Ben.
Yeah, but let's not burn.
All right, hopefully Cenk actually addresses something Ben says, right?
The lead. So the family unit was strong during slavery?
It's so stupid. So stupid.
Okay.
The stupid rise to the top in America. Let's just be clear about that.
In case you don't know, because apparently a lot of right-wingers don't know any history, during slavery, kids would be taken away from their parents, snatched from their arms, and sold off as property to other masters. And then those kids, you would know, would have to serve those masters their whole lives, and they would be whipped and beaten, and then their kids would.
Why is he talking about this? This is so strange. Why is he talking about this? I don't think Ben said that they were stronger during slavery. He didn't say that. He said during the Jim Crow era, which he's correct. Like, there were much higher rates of two-parent households in the Jim Crow era. He didn't say during slavery. Why is he talking about slavery right now?
Would be taken from them. And if they were women, God help them.
Family values.
But Ben Carson says the family unit was stronger during slavery and the government ruined it. Now, by the way, who freed the slaves? The government.
Oh, the government did it. Look, guys, all types of systemic racism that go through the government, don't worry about them anymore, according to Cenk. Don't worry about those anymore. It's okay. Because you should be thankful to the government for allowing you to even be free in the first place, okay? Be thankful that the government allows you to be treated like humans in the first place. Don't complain about the government, okay?
In fact, we fought a whole war with the South to free the slaves. Hundreds of thousands of Northerners died to free the slaves because the government said so. Because Abraham Lincoln said, no, we're not going to let you secede and we're not going to let you keep people as slaves. That was a government decision. But the South had it all figured out, right? And I mean, they were so great to.
Why is he talking about the South?
Black families at the time. I mean,
they were so great to black families at the time. Why? Ben didn't say this. But nowhere, all he said was that there were higher rates of two-parent households in the Jim Crow era. Like, that's it. That's all he said. And they're going off about slavery right now. Why are they talking about slavery right now? What is, or the South? Like as if Ben was like super like aggressively defending the South in that clip. Like, that didn't happen.
How can you say that? How can you say that?
How can you say that?
So
he didn't say that. He didn't say that. What is he talking about?
Right? And I mean, they were so great to black families at the time. I mean, how can you say that? How can you say that?
They were so great to black families at the time. He didn't say that. He didn't say anything about the South being so great to black families at the time. He didn't say that. And he's over here like, how can you say that? How can you say that? Well, he can't. He didn't say that, so I don't know how he can say it. You said it. He didn't. So I should ask you how you can say it.
So this fool, greedy fool, used by the Republicans to attack any program that would help black people in this country.
And that would help anyone in this country.
And Ben Carson, God damn it, haven't you made enough money? And you already did the scam where you went on the speaking circuit and you did your book and you did your dance for the white man and you got.
Did your dance for the white man? Where is this coming from? You did your dance for the white man. This is so ridiculous, dude. This is so messed up. This is so messed up. How do they still have a show after this? How can they still have a show after this? Like, they should have been put on a rocket ship and just blasted off to just into outer space, just gone forever. Like, this is I'm sorry, you're not allowed to be on this planet anymore. This is actually the most official canceling we have ever had, to the point where like you're literally getting canceled off the face of planet Earth. I'm sorry, you gotta go. You're not allowed to be here anymore. Right this way. This is so ridiculous.
Paid handsomely for it. You know that he was a really accomplished doctor and a great student. He made up a story about how he used to be violent and tried to stab his friend with a knife, but it got stuck on his belt buckle. And then Jesus saved him. And that he didn't know anything. He was a fool, a savage and a fool. And at night, an angel taught him chemistry, and that's why he got an A on his test. No.
like, yeah, he's got a bunch of weird stories about him being like a ruffian back in his day, and they're like angels come and save him all the time, or they like miracles happen in front of him a lot. It sounds weird that like he just so happens to witness like tons of miracles in his life happening all the time. Like he tried to stab somebody apparently, and the knife broke. I've never heard of a knife breaking before, but a knife broke. And he's saying that this is an angel that stopped it. I think, let me see. Okay, what's his name? AJW played this video. And it kind of explains that whole weird story.
He took a knife and he went after a friend and he lunged that knife into the stomach of his friends, but lo and behold, it hit the belt. It hit the belt and the knife broke. Give me a break. Give me a break. Give me a break. The knife broke. Let me tell you, I'm pretty good at this stuff. So, I have a belt. Right? Somebody hits me with a belt, it's going in because the belt moves this way. It moves this way. It moves that way. He hit the belt buckle. Anybody have a knife? You want to try it on me? Believe me, it ain't gonna work. You're gonna be successful. But he took the knife, he went like this, and he plunged it into the belt. And amazingly, the belt stayed totally flat. And the knife broke. How stupid are the people of Iowa? How stupid are the people of the country to believe this crap?
So yeah. He's a weird dude. Well, when you look at what the black community has been through, go all the way back to slavery. It was the family, the strong family unit and faith in God that got people through that. That's totally different than what they're saying. That's nowhere close to what they're saying. Yeah, that's just nowhere close. Like, to say that, like, people's family got them through slavery, or, like, being in families or having families got them through slavery, like, there's nothing wrong with that statement. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that statement. That's something that, like, literally, I can't imagine how somebody could have a problem with that statement. Like, even if you take into account that some families had their kids taken away from them, or like they weren't able to like keep families, there's nothing wrong with saying that slaves, it was probably really helpful for slaves to have like support systems when they were in chattel slavery. Like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with this comment, or especially having faith, or like being able to pray, like having hope. Like, these things probably were very important to them. So yeah, there's absolutely nothing with that statement or what Ben Carson said.
You got an A on your test, Ben, because you studied really hard, and you know that. But instead you told white right-wingers what they wanted to hear, that the black man is a savage, and that the government is what's taking his family away, not slave.
That the black man is a savage, dude. Like, he's literally talking about himself and about like the stuff that he went through, and the fact that like he didn't like who he was back then, so he calls himself a savage. Like, but he makes this into a thing where as though he's calling all black men savages. This is so, like, you have to seriously turn into Stretch Armstrong to stretch this that far. Like, that is how hard he is reaching right now. is just with his arm like all the way like Michael Jordan in Space Jam, reaching from one side of the court to the other. That is how hard he is reaching for some way to like insert racism into this. Somehow he's calling Ben Carson a racist for calling himself a savage. This is happening. So
slavery wasn't so bad. You had good Christianity and families, and the government ruined it in all their ways. And a black man being smart.
He didn't say the government ruined it. He didn't say. Well, he was saying that the government ruined like black family units in America. Like I wouldn't go as far to say I wouldn't go as far to say that they ruined it. But I would definitely say that black family units are definitely less likely today because black people are more likely to be poor and therefore more likely to be on welfare. And welfare does have higher pay rates for people who don't have two incomes within the house. So yeah. Like, I don't think the government's malicious with this. I think, like, it makes sense. Like, yeah, of course, you have one income within the household, you get this amount. If you have a second income within the household, you get less. That just, yeah, that makes sense. I don't think there's anything malicious from the government in that area. But, like, the outcome is still a negative outcome for black people, which, yeah, this is obviously systemic racism.
No, they don't want to hear that story. So you told them a story about how you were an idiot, didn't know anything, didn't study at all, but learned chemistry magically through an angel, and you told them that fairy tale they wanted to hear about their religion, right? Now, this is a more uncomfortable fact, but how was Christianity used during slavery? To placate the slaves so they wouldn't revolt. Don't worry. Of course your life is miserable now, but you're gonna have everything up in heaven, right? By the way, conveniently after slavery, now they've flipped it on its head. No, now we have prosperity preachers and you have to give me all your money for my private jets because Jesus is in favor of the really rich. Wait, I thought he was in favor of the poor when we had slavery. Now, conveniently it's been flipped now, right? And I don't.
This is so stupid. You're seriously stretching so hard here, dude. Like, he is trying so hard right now. This is so embarrassing. It's not, nobody's saying that, like, at least, like, Ben Carson doesn't seem to be saying, at least not in this clip. Maybe he says it somewhere else, but I don't know how this applies. That some pastors make a lot of money, like a gluttonous amount of money. I don't know what this has to do with Ben Carson. So this is, how can you be a Christian? I seriously believe you're smarter than that. Who are you talking to?
Disagree that people's faith got them through a lot of tough times, including Jim Crow and including slavery at times, and certainly all through all the discrimination. I'm not trying to argue against their faith.
If you're not trying to argue against that, then you literally agree with everything that Ben Carson just said. If you don't disagree that the family and Christianity got people through slavery and Jim Crow, then you agree with everything that Ben Carson said. This is ridiculous. You're talking to me. Well, because I'm smart, I'm a Christian, actually. So, thank you.
But was it used during slavery to placate people? Of course it was. That's just a fact, right? Were they?
Why? I don't know why he's bringing this up. This is weird.
Christians when they came? No, they weren't, right? And that was the only thing taught to them. And I went and visited when I was in Charleston, a plantation, and a slave market. It is, if you've never done that, you should. It's jarring. It's jarring how they.
This should literally be like a PSA for like people to be like, hey, don't become a whiny liberal. Here's exhibit A. They see a black man talk, and now they have to go off on like this long virtue signal of how they went to a slavery museum and how hard it was for them. It really must have been so hard for Cenk to go through this to go through this slavery museum, and Ben Carson could never understand what Cenk went through in that museum. And he needs to listen up, because Cenk is going to explain what it was like to be a black man.
They would prepare humans as products. They would shine them up, and they would feed them after a long trek from wherever they got captured or bought. And then they would feed them only for a couple of days right before the auction. So
it's like he just found out about slavery. It's like he just found out, and he like thinks it's so interesting. He wants to tell everybody else. This is so exciting for him.
could sell their products better. But Ben Carson tells you, oh, no, families were in great shape. African-American families were in great shape during slavery, because he's going to get paid a little bit more from the racist who buy his books, who pay for his speeches. Was it worth it, Ben? You were a doctor. You were a successful doctor. Was it worth it to betray your people, everything that is right in the world?
Yeah, in a system that preaches the wonders of individualism, yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it for him, which is why he continues to do it. And I want everyone to be clear about.
I hate this, like, this pick-me stuff, or you guys have already heard me go off on the whole Uncle Tom bullcrap, like, in how racist that is. If you haven't, go to my page. It's on my front page, like second row down. Great video. One of my favorite videos I've ever put out. Didn't get a whole lot of views, but it's one of my favorite videos. Like, the one person who watched it commented on it and was like, dude, how does this not have a ton of views? Like, what is happening here? But yeah, I feel like it's insanely racist to treat people as though they have to have a certain ideology because their skin is a certain color. That is so ridiculous. I hate that so much. And that is what Cenk and what's her name? Anna Kasparian are doing right here, is they're freaking out about the fact that a black guy is on the other side of the aisle. And they're like, this isn't fair. We're on their side. We're on the black side. They need to come over here. We're on the black side. It's so disgusting, dude. Like, just having a skin color, like, there's nothing about this that makes me think like, oh, your politics now should be A, B, and C. I can't imagine thinking like that. I can't imagine being that simple-minded to believe that makes sense, or that's not like a racist thing or a racist expectation of people.
The overwhelming messaging coming out of CPAC this year, and every year for that matter, okay? Because some so-called leftists would have you believe we could work with the Republican Party, we could work with right-wingers, we can find common ground.
Yeah, guys, conservatives were definitely Democrats before. Like, there was literally a conservative party for a little while that split off of the party that turned into the Democrats. I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't the Whigs, it was the other side. But anyways, or maybe it was the Whigs. Yeah. Anyways, the South, the Christians were the people who were the Democrats at the time. Like, the Democratic Party was like the majority Christian party, but or not majority, but the higher rate of Christian party, or like anyways. I'm not surprised you believe in the Great Switch. I don't believe in it in the way that most people talk about it, like the Southern strategy sort of bullcrap. That's dumb. But the rest of it is like factual. Obviously, we did switch parties over time. I don't believe in it in like a conspiratorial sort of way where like a bunch of people made these plans and they all worked together to switch the parties over by using racist language. Like, it's that part is ridiculous, and you can see how ridiculous it is when you look at how it literally took like a total of like 45 years for the South to like go majority Republican. It's like their plan took 45 years just to like get a small win. Like, that's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. It sounds like their racist propaganda didn't sink in so well or do so well. It's almost like there are actual historians who break it all down. There's tons of them. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. There are tons of historians who have debunked this many times. No, Tom, the conservatives wanted to conserve human rights for black people. Well, I mean, that's not untrue. Conservatives were a huge part of the civil rights movement. That's like I know that's very different from conservatives today, but conservatives and Christians were a huge part of white Christians were a big part of the civil rights movement back in the day. So yeah, that was one of the ways that Martin Luther King got a lot of people on board, was the fact that they were all brothers in Christ. I'm not going to Twitter threads for freaking history. I've read a ton about the Southern strategy. I've done entire podcasts and shows on the Southern strategy. It's just like maybe it happened. There's not like substantial evidence outside of one guy who said, yeah, I did the Southern strategy. That's it. That is like the most concrete evidence we have, is one guy who was a politician who said, yeah, I did the Southern strategy. That's it. That's as good as it gets. There have been tons of other politicians who all came out and said, like, no, I never heard of this thing. It just so happened that like the parties did end up switching. But conservatives, like, you can go look and see that conservatives were Democrats. Like, you can go look this up. There were tons of conservatives. You can go look at Democrat speeches and see that they were the conservative party. So it's not like that's not up for debate. That's like they were the conservative party for sure. And if you look at who the conservative party was that turned into the Democrats, then yeah, again, like what am I'm blanking on the names. It was the Whigs and the what? There are two main political parties during this time period. One was the Democratic Party led by Andrew Jackson. The other was the Whig Party. Okay. Maybe it was the Democrats back then. But yeah, the conservatives were definitely, and Christians were definitely anti-slavery before it was cool to be anti-slavery. These are like this again. You can go find this. Like, this is pretty historically seen throughout time, which is one of the things that like I get into it with people like Mio over, is they think because they buy into modern Christian propaganda that they're doing the conservative things by doing racist stuff, or that they're like doing you know, the more Christian thing by like being super pro-white, when historically what even Hake, this is something that Hake said in our debate, is that it was the communists who were anti-slavery, and since communists were anti-slavery, he is now pro-slavery. But that's not true. It is true that communists were anti-slavery, but Christians were also anti-slavery. So yeah, like we can see this documented, where tons of large Christian figures were very openly against slavery, even when slavery was happening. So yeah.
On fighting the elites and actually accomplish policy together. They are not interested in changing the inequality in this country and reverse.
I agree with this, but she puts like this as like a very malicious thing. She like turns this into something that's super malicious. I don't think it's malicious. I understand that Republicans don't look at things through systems. They don't understand things in that way. And so it's not as though they're like malicious, like, oh, systemic racism? Yeah, that's awesome. Keep doing that. Like, no, they don't believe systemic racism even exists. So for you to be mad at them for not combating something that they don't even believe exists is like kind of ridiculous. Like, it's, I think that that's such a ridiculous way of treating people, or of like breaking down one's beliefs and combating them, is by acting like they're doing it maliciously for absolutely no reason.
Seeing this rigged economic system that has kept working people down for decades now. They're not interested in that. That messaging from Ben Carson was specifically about doing away with whatever we have left of our social safety net, which is laughable when you compare us to other developed countries. And I'm curious, what is the family unit like? What is the nuclear family unit like in social democracies, like in Scandinavian countries? I would argue that if you're living in a system where...
I don't know, Tom. You know how this show feels like today? Like someone defending Candace Owens on her thoughts on Hitler. Shoot, I defended the hell out of Candace Owens on her thoughts on Hitler. I don't think they were nearly as bad as people made them out to be. This is the same exact reason why I defended Hassan when he said almost the same exact thing as Candace Owens.
Your basic needs are met, it's going to lead to a lot less conflict in the household, a lot less stress about where you're going to get your next meal or how you're going to find enough money to pay your rent next month. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, right? But all of these goons would have you believe with their disgusting propaganda that all of our problems are not a result of this rigged economic system and this inequality. They want you to think it's the meager social safety net we have left. That's the real problem. Let's do away with it so the wealthy can get more tax cuts. It's garbage, garbage. Anyone who purports to be on the left, who buys that there's any real economic populism on the right, please wake up. Wake up, stop being an idiot. Wake up.
I'm super happy to take the economic populism.
That's a shot at Jimmy Dore. I was thinking for a second, why that was so random. Why did she say that? There's no economic populism on the right? Where did that come from? That's, yeah, because Jimmy Dore and them want to link up with the people on the right who share their values. So, okay.